If he came out to intentionally trip us up and try and dangle a nasty bit of fruit in front of us, we're going to be like, that's a nasty bit of fruit, mate. If he dangles a nice little Instagram reel together, I'll be watching that for an hour or two. Welcome to the Bible in 1 Year podcast, brought to you by two Brits and a Bible.
Today is day 348, covering 2 Thessalonians 1, 2 and 3.
So I thought, again, I'd mentioned this back in, I think it was 1 or 2 Corinthians or something. It was just like one letter, just part 2 or whatever. But actually, similar to that, it was 2 separate letters. This one was written a few months after 1 Thessalonians. So that was sort of like 51 AD or so. And there was some dispute actually over the authenticity of it, interestingly enough. The Apologetics Bible said that the form and structure of 2 Thessalonians make it allegedly too similar to the first book. The vocabulary is too close. The first Thessalonians seems warm and friendly, while the second one seems cool and distant, and differences in theology and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, I see that. It does go on to say that those points are pretty weak, but like it's the same person writing 2 separate letters. Their vocabulary and the way they talk is going to be pretty similar, but the points being made are very different. So, yeah.
That's an interesting point. Like, I don't really know ultimately. What I was saying before was, in a way, it doesn't really bother me too much. Like, if there are a couple of little things here and there, like the story where Jesus says, he who is without sin cast the first stone. Some people think that is not real. And if it's not, okay, like pretty much everything else Jesus said and did is real, so that's okay if a couple of bits managed to sneak in. Interesting. Okay, so
so the actual intro to it, basically, it was written as well as the dispute over the authenticity. It was kind of there to try and clear up some circumstances of Christ's return. So it was like a follow-up, almost like, okay, I missed this section. So it was a second letter, kind of a follow-on, but it was a separate letter as well.
Yeah, love that. Okay, cool. So diving in then to 1 verse 9, they will be punished with everlasting destruction and shut out from the presence of the Lord and from the glory of his might. I just think that it's sobering, like straight away, right? He's bringing in hell and it's just going to be awful. So yeah, kind of adds to what you were saying. The first one was maybe warm and friendly. The second one pretty much straight away, like, look, get it together, otherwise you're going to be in hell. It's like, oof, okay.
Yeah, it's a pretty heavy start to the book, isn't it, really?
Yes, it is.
It kind of leads me in pretty well. I know you're about to chat a little bit more, but I kind of wanted to touch on this because it keeps referencing the lawless one. But in 2 verse 9, it says, the coming of the lawless one will be in accordance with how Satan works. So I kind of thought that the lawless one was just like a nickname for Satan, but clearly it's not.
Right.
In accordance with how he works. So it was more of a question than anything. You may end up answering it for me in a second. Who rightly knows?
I feel like the lawless one is maybe a reference to the Antichrist. Antichrist is different to Satan.
Okay, fair.
So that was my take on it. But obviously, if you have opinions on it, please don't like the video at that point. Just share, and don't share either. Just comment, maybe. Just do all of it. Anyway, see how I use my Jedi mind tricks on them. They're like, wait a minute. Right. So then 2 verse 4. He will oppose and will exalt himself over everything that is called God or is worshipped, so that he sets himself up in God's temple, proclaiming himself to be God. So that, again, is a reason why I believe it's talking about the Antichrist, fake Messiah, fake news. It feels like we're getting closer to those times because everything is claiming to be the truth at this point and godly at this point. We've talked a lot about whether we're near the end or not, and who knows, but there are things like this that sometimes strike me, and I'm like, yeah, everyone's looking for an answer, and a lot of people are trying to avoid the actual real answer in the current society, which is a shame.
Very true.
So then I've got 2:13. So God chooses you as first fruits. So this links a bit to the doctrine of election, which I've talked about previously, but also the idea that God predestined you to be chosen before you were born, which is really cool. Yeah. And also it's a reminder why we should give our first fruits to God, because if God chose us as first fruits, then we should choose to give our first fruits to God, I think.
That's good, dude. Absolutely.
Sweet.
You're on 3-3 as well, dude.
All right, I'll just stay going on it then, I guess. So then the Lord is faithful and he will strengthen you and protect you from the evil one. So I just put amen to that, or amen, as I would have said when I lived in Britain and probably should still say. But I'll just actually link that to, this idea that it's like a colder tone and stuff that you sort of brought up at the beginning that critics say or whatever. It's like, well, yeah, but at the same time, I mean, so he brings in hell, he brings in the Antichrist, he brings in all the bad stuff, which is an important part of the gospel, right? The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. But then in 3 here, he's actually saying, but don't worry, once you're saved, the Lord is faithful and he will strengthen you. So it doesn't seem,
Yeah.
Just seems like, good preaching to me.
It's true. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, death ain't nothing but a thing, is it, man?
Death ain't nothing but a thing. So...
Nah, true, man. That's a very valid point.
I'm going to be 80 years old on my deathbed, and you're going to be there, assuming you outlive me, why not? And you're just going to be there, and you're just going to be like, death ain't nothing but a thing, mate. And I'll just be like, all right, that's quite fun.
Like hologram myself into your bedside or something. Teleport stage, surely.
Yeah.
I like that. There's a great YouTube. There's a YouTube Insta video of like just trying to have a relaxing day at the pool, except my 85-year-old grandpa, and this old 85-year-old dude's just like flipping into the pool, diving through like inflatable donuts. I'm like, that's going to be me at 85.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. I can see that.
So my next point, I'm kind of stealing something my wife was chatting about the other day. She's been listening to a bunch of podcasts, reading a bunch of books, and not ours, ironically. But basically, it says in 3, I'm not bitter at all, 3 verse 6, to keep away from every believer. Well, okay, in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, we command you, brothers and sisters, to keep away from every believer who is idle and disruptive and does not live according to the teaching you received from us. And it was this concept of being idle, which really sort of, I pulled out what Melody was telling me the other day. And basically, she was read a book called Wasting Time or something along those lines, and how so often we just waste time. We don't seize the day. We don't do what we're supposed to be doing. We just spend time, whether it's melting away on social media, whether it's playing PlayStation, whether it's, I don't know, it can be anything.
Yeah. Anything, yeah.
Well, I mentioned about morally neutral things taken away from God, but it's just wasting our time and preventing us from being the people that God has called us to be. And that is one of the greatest ways the enemy is coming at us, is with just us wasting time. If he came out to intentionally trip us up and try and dangle a nasty bit of fruit in front of us, we're going to be like, that's a nasty bit of fruit, mate. If he dangles a nice little Instagram reel together, I'll be watching that for an hour or two.
Yeah.
We just fall into that trap time and time and time again. It's so simple, but it's so effective.
Yeah, that's good. And I'm trying to remember a good quote that some wise guy said at some point, but it's effectively something like the greatest enemy isn't actually evil so much as it is apathy, just being apathetic to stuff. Yeah. So if we're all just sat on Instagram, as you say, and stuff, we're not actually doing anything bad, as you say, we're more neutral, but actually that apathy, just that lack of care, can be much worse and harder to get out of. So we've both got 3:10. I'm looking forward to seeing what you have to say about this. So I'll just read it out. So 3:10, the one who is unwilling to work shall not eat. So kind of links to what you've just been saying, really. We should be proud to work hard for God and not expect any rewards or anything unless we do. Also, I can't remember which founding father, but one of the founding fathers of America actually said that exact quote as like part of his political discourse. It's like, look, if you're unwilling to work, you will not eat. And so he was quoting the Bible, and I thought that was kind of cool.
That's cool. I like that. My thought on it was just, I'd love to see how that tries to get implemented today. People relying on government handouts. And I did put a note in there that was like, it's very different to not able to work. People that are just lazy, and I just don't fancy it today, relying on, parents' money or government or whatever, like but try and implement that today, just ain't flying, is it? Though I did find it really interesting. Later down in 15, it's talking on the same topic, but saying, yet do not regard them as enemies, but warn them as fellow believers. So actually, it's saying that it's not okay, but also we shouldn't be casting them aside and all stuff like that. So just like the whole continue to love through that time as well. Tomorrow, another new book, believe it or not, 1 Timothy all the way through. Why don't you go ahead and like, share, subscribe, as Bevan mentioned earlier, and we'll see you then.
See you.